everybody. Thank you for joining us, Black Barn Fine Art Studio. We have a new exclusive interview for you today with Amy, and I'm going to say her name wrong, and I'm going to ask her to correct me when she comes on stage. But from my time working with her in the past, we've called her Amy Dapice, but I know that it's a beautiful Italian name. So here is Amy. We have some fun questions and workshops to talk about that she's going to be leading at Black Barn, and here she is. Hi.
Hello.
Okay, correct me on your name.
Dapice is totally fine. But I actually, that's the Americanization of my husband's Italian name, which is Dapice. And we went to Italy and we learned how to say it right. And so I've been saying Dapice. My husband still says Dapice. So it's okay. I'll answer to anything.
That's
anyway,
okay.
Thanks for having me.
Yay! I'm so glad to have you here. So I've had the pleasure of working with Amy in the past on Bainbridge Island, where she comes to us once a year. Well, I say comes to us. I don't live in Washington anymore, but she comes to Washington once a year and graces everyone with her presence and works up a fury of amazing workshops and art shows and just kind of a tough fire to put out. And so can you tell us where you're at right now? Because you're on travels right now.
Yes, I am. I'm at the beginning of a 3.5-month stay in the West. I call it the West. And I started out, home base is still Seattle, Bainbridge Island, and the Pacific Northwest. And I was there, and then I was in Boulder, Colorado. Now I'm presently in South Dakota in a little Airstream, which is like so much fun, visiting an artist friend of mine. And then from here, I go to the East Coast, back to Bainbridge for the workshop that's coming up in Kingston. And then I'm going to Spain for 3 weeks. Actually. I always try to go someplace kind of exotic or just different, or place I haven't been. Spain. Last year I went to Mexico because, you know, I live in Thailand, which is about as far away as you can get. It's like halfway around the world. So when I come back, it's for a big chunk of time, and I exhibit and I teach and I have an army of people to see. So it's really fun. And I'm right at the beginning. But right now I'm in beautiful South Dakota, and I taught a workshop yesterday too, fashion illustration.
Oh, I love when you lead that class. That's actually, fun fact, I have a little sketch still that you drew in Sharpie for a workshop that was one of your fashion classes, and it was like you would toss it on one of the tables like to be discarded, and I was like, I can't throw this away. So I still have it. Just tucked away in one of my folders, but
that's great.
Oh, lovely. So speaking of teaching, I mean, you've taught, gosh, I mean, I've got to be in a couple of your workshops in Washington that was for the nonprofit that were not loose, but a little bit more casual. And I know that you've done a lot of private instruction, and I know that you've taught at like the art institution as well. Like you've taught in a lot of different, really varied, very different like teaching environments. Have you felt like working in those environments, like your work has been different as you've gone through those different kind of stages?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing is, when you're a working artist, whatever is happening in your life should affect your work, as far as I'm concerned. You know, where you're living, what the weather is, you know, what your situation is, and definitely teaching, which is such a passion of mine, definitely that's affected my work. And I really thought about this because I knew the question was coming. And in particular, when I taught at the Art Institute of Seattle, I taught in media arts and animation. So, and I was at a school where there was graphic design and fashion illustration and technical stuff, and in particular animation students, which used a lot of technology, and it definitely affected my work. One of the ways is it really made me embrace the idea of depicting things that are moving. And like, you know, and I'm a street sketcher now, which is great because life does not hold still for me. And teaching animation students where they had to analyze actually how things moved and how to depict that. And so now I love it. It's such a fun challenge to draw things that are in a state of flux rather than holding still. And I think my work also, one of the recurring themes is sort of making order out of chaos, like letting it be very energetic, and you know, I basically let myself get into trouble as an artist, and then I work my way out, and just back to the animation. I think that life that they were trying to depict through animation stuck with me and influenced me. And also graphic design, like very simple, clear images and big chunky compositions. And also fashion illustration. I had to teach fashion illustration, or I got to teach fashion illustration, and I had to learn how to teach the figure on day one. Like you spend months learning how to draw the figure, but fashion illustration students, they need to know just enough that they can draw the clothes, but they need the basics of the figure. So that influenced my work because I got to be much better at drawing the figure, and I just simplified it. And I think simplification is just pretty much always a good thing in art. In any element you pick, if you strip it down to the bare essential to say what you want to say, and that's coming from somebody who likes chaos, but it's like making the order out of the mess. Anyway, I definitely was influenced by my students. And I continue to be. You know, you just, as a teacher, you're always learning, you know, if you're paying attention, because
Mhm.
you're constantly reinforcing the fundamentals for yourself. And they're all those things, composition and color theory, and like it's all important no matter what level you're on, whether you're just starting or whether you've been at it for many, many years, which I can claim.
It's interesting too, because thinking about you saying that about being in movement is that, yeah, even like none of your work is really like still life. You do a lot of portraiture and things, but it's not someone who's just sitting. It's always a very busy beach scene or a city scene or like the market with all of the scooters. Someone is riding a scooter. Like you can see, I think I have a print of one that's like a taffy pull. Like there is literally like there's always like something happening that's moving. You are
Right.
not depicting a still object in most of your work, aside from maybe your temples, I guess. But even with your temples, you usually have like there's like little characters and stuff that are happening
Yeah,
at the same
but
time.
you know what else? If I can interrupt, nothing is actually static. Like even, I mean, if you study science, molecules are moving. Nothing is actually solid. Everything has vibration. And for me, even when I'm drawing the temple, I don't want to get the perfect line too soon, or like I don't. It becomes very stiff and stilted. So even in drawing inanimate objects, I give them life through multiple lines and almost not doing it perfect, and then letting it get refined as you go through the process. And it brings that energy, because really, when you think about it, nothing is solid, right?
I love
So
that you
even
said vibration because yeah, you can feel the vibration in like in like almost all of your work,
oh,
that life
thanks.
force. You can feel that kind of like coming off of what you've done.
Thanks. That's what I'm going for. I mean, sometimes, I listen to a lot of people talk about art, and I think it's very interesting to hear how they analyze art. And I actually love to lecture to non-artists or to people who just want more information about how to look at art. And one of the things that people will say when they look at art is, "Oh, that looks like it was hard." And I don't want people to think that when they look at my art. I want them to think, "Wow, that looks like she just did it without," and I mean, on some level, they know that it's not easy, but I
Right.
want it to look joyful and not just like, "Oh, it was really difficult and I can't do that, so it must be good." No, that's not a good
Yeah.
response. So,
That
yeah,
is an
I try to
interesting
keep it alive.
distinction. Like, I
Yeah.
haven't thought about that, where that is a lot of the time where people judge whether something and in fact, actually, I had that conversation with my husband where he literally said that's how he judges good art from bad art is whether he feels that he could do it or whether he does not feel that he could do it.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Sure,
well, that's
sure.
kind of an unfortunate way to look at it.
Well, it's just, people don't have more tools. And so they have certain things that they can look at. Does it look hard? Is it impressive in, scale? I mean, like there's certain things, but or does it look real? Is the other way they can judge
Mhm.
it, because we all agree on what we think looks real, so that people can say that with authority. Oh, that looks just like the thing, and that's a compliment. Of course, we know that's not necessarily a compliment, because again, back to my own work, since it's my interview, like I want to show you something that you can't see without me. I
Mhm.
don't want to just show you how the thing looks. Like we all know that already. I want you to see it different, through my eyes. So anyway, realism is a bit of a dead end, but it is definitely a tool for a lot of people to evaluate art.
Yeah. Yeah. That's yeah, just and thinking on like your temples, and then even thinking of your In the Mirror series where, you know, like you're depicting like a bathroom mirror and like a bathroom, and it's like that could be a very boring scene, but you are having people look at it in a really different, like quirky way, and then they're just very enjoyable.
Which, by the way, I'm back on the In the Mirror train. I just finished my 4th one, and the mirror in the bathroom here in the Airstream is hilarious. That is gonna be a challenge. It's like up on the ceiling almost, and, like, it's anyway, that's what I like about it. Every situation, I don't know, like, how I'm gonna do it, but I have to figure it out, so it's fun.
It's so fun.
Okay,
We'll talk about your temples and everything.
sure.
So, also in your work, like obviously you go everywhere. You've lived so many places, and your work really, like if you look at it in a show, it's like we used the word previously when we talked, it's like a tapestry where you see like all of these different locations and cultures that you've experienced, that you've lived in, that you've kind of assimilated to. Is there any location that you've been in that you feel especially has like inspired you to like just jump in and like really get working?
Yes, I mean, without question, it's where I live now, Chiang Mai, Thailand. But I want to preface this like this is a relatively recent thing that I'm depicting the world around me. Like I had a dress series where I was painting
Mhm.
dresses, and I did genre paintings. I mean, for a long time, I did things not entirely out of my head, but they were constructs. I wasn't like a plein air street sketcher, but that changed when I started really traveling, which was about 15 years ago. I started traveling, and that changed my work because I needed to be more portable. I needed to have more strategies. I wasn't in the studio. I couldn't really oil paint. So I started using watercolor, I started using mixed media, and everything changed. And now I definitely draw more from my environment than I used to. But Chiang Mai, oh my gosh, it's like an explosion of visual information. It's temples and huts and people and scooters going by and texture and shapes and like I I cannot go 5 feet without seeing something that I want to draw. I'm so backed up. I will never be able to do it. But I just had an exhibit of 19 new pieces that are on my website. If I don't know if we'll include that information, but um, and it was all about all Chiang Mai. And it was such a great show because it really, like, after looking for 10 years and drawing all the time on the street for 10 years, I got back in the studio and I did a combination of paint and paper collage, but not in a traditional collage way, which good segue. But Chiang Mai inspired me big time to really get into color more and just the pattern and the layering because like Chiang Mai is a I was going to say civilization, but it kind of is. It's very ancient. Like the temples are 1,000 years old. Like they're ancient culture, but it's also very fertile and alive. And things are always changing. Like I have one piece that's in my show that I just hung. That I did this hut. It was really cool. It had corrugated tin and all these colors, and I did it. And I went home and I thought, oh, I want to do a little bit more. And I went back and it was gone. It was gone like overnight. And like something else will pop up. And
Oh my god.
that happens all the time. It's changing all the time. And there's like sacred things next to profane things that like all this mixed up hodgepodge. It's layered, is what I'm saying. And so I started using collage, like kind of innocently. I had some really cool papers, textured papers, but they weren't finished products. I thought, yeah, I should put these into my pieces. And so I started mixing up paint and paper. And sometimes you can't even tell which is which. And I go back and forth and then I modify once I layer. Anyway, this is the heart of the workshop at Black Barn is for 2 days. I'm going to walk students through this new process, which I'm so excited to share. And the thing that's going to be great about this workshop and why I really wanted 2 days, because it's more than a technique. It reinforces all of the fundamentals that I talked about before. Good composition, drawing, juxtaposition of shapes, color theory, um, value, contrast, the role of that, like it's texture, so many elements that we need that we use no matter what we do as artists. So I just think this is the latest iteration of what I've been doing all along, but I'm very excited about it. Everybody should take that workshop. It's
That's
going to be,
I'm so excited to see. I need to look at more. I looked at your recent show, but like you said, like it's hard to, like, you almost can't even tell
you can't
where it's
tell.
at. And I know that beforehand, when I got to like take a workshop with you and everything, and seeing even the way that you do your mixed media with your watercolor and your markers and everything, even that feels like sort of collage, just because of the layering of like the different mediums. And there's a little bit transparent, but then like you layer some opaque over the top of it, and like
Yeah.
seeing how those work together. So I like, I feel like this is going to lend so well to that I want to like try and pick out like which parts might be collage.
Yep. Good luck. But um well, I was going to say so, but the thing is that's so great about this process too. I'll just say this one other thing. It's like, and I touched on this before. As an artist, I like to like get in there and like people are always saying, I want to be freer, I want to be looser, but you like you actually have to do it. It's not. It's a thing. Like I get in there and I don't know how it's going to turn out. And so that the collage is like endless layering. So I don't need to know. And it's probably better that I don't know, because all that layering is making changes that you need to make and thereby doing something else interesting to the piece. So
Yeah.
it's just, yeah, it's really kind of embracing the kitchen sink approach to making
I
art.
love that. And that's something that I really enjoyed when I got to take a workshop with you, was that you do really encourage like bravery. Like you do really encourage your students to like get in there, where it's like you can't be afraid of it. You just gotta get
That's
in. You
right.
gotta lay it down, and you just gotta
That's
like
right.
do it on purpose.
Make
And it
good
was
trouble. Make good trouble. Get into trouble. Yeah, you really do. You got to get in trouble. And dance breaks.
I remember that too. And that actually, I've been teaching kiddos, and that has been one of the
You do.
core
Oh,
things,
I love it.
is that we take little dance breaks, because it's like you just got to get your wiggles out, and you just got to like separate from it for a second. And I love that in your
Yeah.
class too.
Thanks. And you know what else too? Art making, and people need to remember this. It's a physical process. It's not just coming from your brain. Like it's literally your hands and the material, and it's physical. And I love to tell drawing students, if your drawing isn't going very well, check out your body. Like, are you like, "Ooh," like, you can't be afraid to make a mistake. You need to just, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that was one of the times that you had us do a dance break, because I think that there was because we were doing, I think a lot of us were working in oil, and I think they were getting a little bit tense, and you're like, okay, nope, you're like, here we go. And we got the music, and we were dancing and stuff. And I'm gonna put a link on the screen, guys, so you can see this is how you get to Amy's class and register. Blackbarnfineartstudio.com/paper and paint, and that is her collage workshop coming up 2 days, that like she said, like
Yeah.
you
And
don't want to
and I'm providing a lot of the material too. So it's not, you don't need a whole arsenal of things. You can have it pretty simple. But
that's
anyway,
nice
thanks.
too. Yeah. And we were just talking a bit about color and your use of color, especially in your current works in Chiang Mai, with how colorful everything is. And obviously, I mean, most artists use color to kind of like tell a story, but I feel like your color choices are never boring. Like, do you have a process for the way that you pick your palettes for pieces? Does it lend a certain storytelling, or are you just kind of working from the life that you're seeing while you're traveling around?
No, that's a great question, Savannah. That's a really good question. Actually, I want to preface this with, I was so afraid of color when I first started painting, and my first exhibit was practically monochromatic. I was very intimidated by color, and it took me a while. And my philosophy about color is that color is really the most subjective element in art. Why we like the colors we like it, you can have a formula, but not everyone resonates and likes the same colors, just on a instinctual level. And anyway, there are certain tools. Like one tool is, what is the dominant feeling of this piece? Is it red, which is like a very passionate color, right? Is it blue, which is calmer? like you're going to use more than one color, but it's nice to think, what is the dominant color? What is the dominant feeling? Because colors relate to feeling, right? And beyond that, I often will pick a complement. The blue orange or the red violet. I don't usually use what I call the Christmas complement, the red green, although that can work. But I pick a complement because right away you're going to have a bounce, not only between value, but also between warm and cool. And it's good to have both of those. So I pick a complement sort of as my base colors. And then I just get in there and make trouble. And the thing about color is it'll look one way on your palette and to look completely different on the canvas when you put it next to another color. So you can have a formula, but once you get in there, you just have to like, oh, that looks good or not. I modify, you just have to get it on there. So I start with a complement in my mind usually. And then I think of it as a base color, and then I just get in there and experiment. And a lot of times the end stage of my painting is getting rid of what's not working. So and that's not a bad thing. It's like, I think painting and art making is two steps forward, one step back. You're constantly adjusting to what's happening. And also I love that risk taking with color. Like I'm just not afraid anymore because I know that I can change it, if it's not working. But the other thing too, before I forget, is very important to include neutrals. Like
Oh,
when you look at my paintings, they are very colorful, but there's a lot of neutral. Because if you don't have the neutrals, it's too much. It's too saturated, and I don't like that look at all. And I think it's like frosting on a cake, like it's too rich. You need neutrals. And I always spend a lot of time creating neutrals. And the truth is, neutrals make the pop colors pop even more because it's
yeah.
all
'Cause I'm thinking about your work right now where I'm just like, oh yeah, I'm focusing so much on the bright colors that make it fun, but even in like the taffy piece, like I'm thinking about the pink of the taffy, and then I think that there's like a green blue kind of in the background like of the setting itself. But then yeah, like there's still a lot of, like white apron, I think, or cream apron, and then of course, just brown hair. It is meant to highlight the pink of the taffy
pink.
so that's what
Exactly.
you remember about it, but
Exactly.
you've laid out the scene. So,
So Laura,
yeah.
you got to send me this taffy piece because I think I remember which piece you're talking about, but I'm not totally sure. Is it a woman working a taffy machine?
Yes,
Yep.
yeah, I have it somewhere. I
Beach.
have it laminated because it was one of our banners that was promoting your show, and because I think it was a time that you were in New Jersey. I think that was what it was from because you had a few pieces that were like New
Okay.
Jersey-esque, and,
Right.
I'll see if I can
I
find it
think
because I have it laminated. I have it somewhere in my studio, so
I think I know which one you mean now, but it took me a minute. But you know what? After 40, 50 years of making art, like sometimes I don't know what I did or where my stuff is. One time I was missing a painting. I was working on masonite, painting on masonite, and I was missing. I was like, "Where is that painting? Where's that painting?" Like months. I can't find this painting. I was using it as a cutting board, like on my studio table. Like it didn't hurt the painting because it was the back of it, but like I didn't realize for.
I'm amazed it didn't hurt the painting. That's good.
No, it didn't hurt the painting, but I'm pretty irreverent because you just like again, no fear.
Yeah.
No fear. We don't need to be precious or careful. Like, let's have a good time. And it shows, it'll show in the work if you're having fun.
Sidebar question I didn't, prepare
Sure.
you for, but do you feel like your being choosing to not feel fear about what you're making, do you feel like that helps you to be more prolific? Because you're one of the more prolific artists that I know, where I feel like you are just like, you see things and you create it, and you see something and you create it, and like you're kind of like constantly making things. And I feel like a lot of the time we're so caught up in that planning phase of it, or like thinking about the piece and then being afraid of messing it up, that it's not going to be the way that we want it to be. At least in my case, I know that a lot of the time that's like what keeps me from making the thing, where you kind of just are like, well, that's beautiful and I would love to make that. I don't know if I could pull that off right now, and just moving on. Like, do you feel
Right.
like you
Yes. I think having a philosophy of no fear, I just jump right in with both feet. But the other thing too is I have well, it's partly my personality too, but like work with expediency. Like, I don't think time is always your friend. If you have too much time, you overthink, you're too slow, you second guess. Like I sometimes make my students work faster than they feel comfortable because they do stuff that they wouldn't do. They take risks they wouldn't take. And if you're working faster, you can do more work. But the other thing too that I do is I work in series. Like the In the Mirror is an ongoing series. I've been doing it for 10 years. But it really adds up. I have a lot of work. And then I like to do a sketch every day. And so I have my streets, and then I have my studio, and I have a show coming up. And like I always have reasons to work. And also it's so part of just who I am now. If I don't paint or just draw, I don't paint every day, but if I don't draw, I really feel like I I I didn't I failed the day. Like I didn't do good. And but I really, it's pleasure. And that's why, I do it, because it is pleasure for me. And teaching is, I don't know, I think this was in one of the questions, but I'm going to just jump ahead. For me, teaching, the main reason I teach is that I feel like we all have to give something. We all need to be givers. And this is what I'm good at. This is what I love. And I think I'm good at helping people come into the fold and lose the fear, and to come into the family. And there's nothing more rewarding than that. And seeing the light bulbs go off on my students, because a lot of times people come to classes, especially now, the kind of classes I'm teaching, I get a lot of older students or retired. They used to do art, they want to do it again. They don't know if they can do it. And I know they can do it. I know. They don't know, but I know. So I just sit back and watch them succeed. And it's such a pleasure to see that happen. I mean, everybody, and there's no age limit on art. Anybody can do it with, wherever they start. Everybody can come into it, so.
Yeah, that was in the workshop that I got to do with you, and it was just such like a fun, like it kind of felt like we were, like you said, like a family, like we were like welcomed into a little family for those 3 days. We were just like this little family group that was like figuring it out. And then yeah, we had a huge age range because I was in my mid-20s when I was in that class. I think there was one person who was younger than me. She might have been like, I don't even think she was 20 yet. And then we had some more like middle-aged, like 40s, 50s. And then we had some older women too that were, I think, in their like mid to later 60s. So it was like a really good, interesting group. And yeah, just all of us kind of like working on different projects, but on a similar vein. And it was just like, it was just such a fun experience that is kind of different than going into like an arduous class where you're like we
Right.
still learn skills, but it was like
Yeah,
a
you do.
reunion or something.
Well, that's the thing. Hopefully, a good teacher will teach you some really hard things, but you don't know that it's hard. You don't know how hard it is going in, but you end up doing it because
Yeah.
it's presented in a way that, yeah, just here, okay, and go.
Yes. Yeah. And
Yeah.
then also just talking about the jumping in and being prolific, because I'm a very slow worker, but it was a 3-day painting workshop that you taught, and I was actually able to create 3 pieces in your 3-day, like I was able to create a piece a day while I was with you, which was
Fabulous. Yeah.
amazing and not how I usually work. So it was like
Yeah, yeah.
just something really special about that. I just like I hope so many people take your class because it's just
I
like
do
it's a really
too.
unique experience.
I do. I hope we fill it up. But anyway, whoever's there, it's going to be a party.
Yes.
That's for sure.
And it's a
Okay.
beautiful space, so I think it'll
Yeah.
it'll have just like, yeah, I think it'll just be a great time. I also wanted to chat with you a little bit without giving too much away, your speaking event that you're doing at Black Barn, because you're gonna be doing your speaking event as well, and I think that's also a huge treat. I got to be at one of your speaking events before, and you're so fun to like listen to and share your experiences.
Thank
And
you.
could you give us
Yeah.
like a little?
Yeah, it's really going to be about art and travel, and keeping your work going as an artist, and street sketching, and stories. So I'll tell stories of sort of making art on the road and some of the obstacles I've and some of the funny encounters with people, and how you basically keep your work going. Different kind of kits you can use, like a small kit when you've got a backpack, or if your car, if you're in a car, you can have different art materials. So it's really about keeping art alive on the road. And there'll be music and there'll be art. And one of the things that's really great, I think, about these lectures that I try to do is I share work in progress. I show how I started and how I in the middle, that messy middle, and then how it ended up. Because so often you see art and you only see the end. And I think so many people benefit from seeing the struggle and the, where it went wrong or where it came together or how you did it. And how you do it while you're traveling is even more interesting, because you end up with all these funny situations because you're not in a controlled environment like you are in your studio. And
Mhm.
so it's really about a celebration of art and travel and some of my adventures. And of course, along the way, I'm always talking to people, and I just have fun. I have funny things to share about what has happened along the way. So it's education. It's about art appreciation, and it's about taking it on the road.
And talking about art appreciation, that's like, you're so fun to listen to, and I feel like it's something like your teaching, your talking events are something that like artists will obviously benefit from, but even someone who's not an artist and is just an art appreciator is
Definitely.
going to have a really good time listening to you speak.
It's actually geared toward the non-artist. I mean, artists obviously will get a lot out of it, but it's for anybody would enjoy this lecture. You don't even have to partake, because as you and I know, we also need audience.
Yes, for sure. And then I know that this is also going to be a fundraiser for I think a local scholarship.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the ticket prices for the live event all are helping to fund that scholarship, which is a pretty
Yeah.
exciting move
Yeah, going
for
to a
Black
good
Bar.
cause. Yeah,
Awesome.
very good.
I love it. I'm gonna share the link as well to
Okay,
the event if you wanted to go. If you go to blackbarnfineartstudio.com/blackbarn events, you'll see Amy's event right there, so you can get your ticket. I think they're only $15 each, which is like, a bargain to go and get fully entertained, because it's such a treat to listen to you talk. It's so fun. I'm super jealous of everyone that's getting to go to your class and to your speaking event
well,
in August.
thanks. Thanks, Savannah.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you so much for like hanging out with me today.
Oh, my pleasure.
And I'm so jealous and excited for Black Barn that they get to have you in person and in the flesh, and everyone who gets to see you, because it's just it's always a party when you get to hang out with Amy.
I hope so.
Okay, thank you, Amy, so much. And we'll see you at your workshop and at your event in August. And we will have the
Yay.
links and everything shared as well in the description for the video in case you wanted to visit any of those. And we'll put a link to your show as well. I'll make sure that we get a link to your,
Wonderful.
because it's not as impactful to see it online as it is to see it in person, because Amy work is really fun and energetic in person, like even more so. But it's a great set. I enjoy getting to look at it online.
Good.
It's the only consolation we have if we can't go see it in Chiang Mai. So,
Okay,
all right.
thanks.
Thank you, Amy.
Okay,
Bye.
bye.